name is Tommy Springfield, and this is Welcome to My City. You may be asking yourself, what is Welcome to My City? That is just my views and opinions on what's going on in my area. The city is Springfield, the state is Massachusetts. And the hot topic right now is there a serial killer in the New England area? Let's start by first giving the channel its prop. This channel is called The Crime Atlas. They do a great job, and I always want to give shout out to the channels because I don't want to take credit for what they do. I could never be as good as them. But this is their version of what's going on in New England with the serial killers. We gonna watch it, and I'm just gonna give you my opinion on that. And always remember, if you like how I do that, click that like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, click all so you can get notifications every time I drop one of these videos. And if you want to watch this video without my commentary, that's fine. You go right there, The Crime Atlas. Let's get to the video.
New England. Law enforcement says no, but online chat groups say yes.
First at 6, rumors of a New England serial killer are spiraling online. Several bodies have been discovered.
We begin now with a follow-up on the rumors circulating on social media regarding an alleged serial killer here in New England.
Online
social media. 13 bodies, 3 states, 1 terrifying question. Is a serial killer hunting in New England? The discoveries came fast and without warning. Bodies turning up in rivers, near trails, and deep in the woods. Each scene more disturbing than the last. As the body count rose, so did the fear. But when the public demanded answers, they got silence, speculation, and then another victim. This isn't a movie. It's not just an online theory. These are real people, real families, trapped between public suspicion and official denial. In this video, we separate fact from rumor to answer one question. What's really happening in New England? Let's dive in. New England might be known for its colonial charm, autumn leaves, and quiet coastal towns. But dig a little deeper, and you'll find a history that's darker than most people realize. In the 1960s, Boston was paralyzed with fear as women were found strangled in their homes. 13 victims, one supposed killer, Albert DeSalvo. To this day, some still believe the real Boston Strangler was never caught. In the 80s, Michael Ross, the roadside strangler, stalked the back roads of Connecticut and New York, taking the lives of at least 8 women. He was executed in 2005, the first to be put to death in New England in over 40 years. Then there was Craig Price, the so-called Warwick slasher, just a teenager when he murdered 4 people, including a mother and her 2 young daughters in Rhode Island. His crimes shocked even seasoned investigators. And more recently, the twisted case of Robert Bob Evans, a man who used multiple aliases to hide a string of murders across New Hampshire and California. His true identity wasn't discovered until years after his death. So no, New England isn't immune to serial killers. If anything, its past proves how long a predator can go undetected and how deeply these crimes can hide in plain sight. But in the spring of 2025, the region was forced to confront that darkness all over again. In March alone, half a dozen sets of human remains were discovered in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. 2 more turned up shortly after, and by the end of April, the body count had climbed to 12. Most of the victims were women, and some of the crime scenes bore eerie similarities. state and local authorities tried to calm the unrest, insisting the cases weren't related, that there were no signs of foul play. Even so, some locals and especially online sleuths believe there's a prolific serial killer in their midst. And if that's true, the remains already found might just be the tip of the iceberg. It all began quietly, but unsettlingly in early March of 2025 in Norwalk, Connecticut. On Thursday, March 6th, officers from the Norwalk and Wilton police departments were out searching for 35-year-old Paige Fannin, a longtime hairdresser from New York. She had vanished 2 days earlier from West Islip, Long Island, and was last seen on March 5th in nearby Wilton. That search escalated quickly. Investigators discovered a trail of women's clothing scattered along the west bank of the Norwalk River, not far from an old abandoned bridge. A short time later, police divers recovered a body from the riverbed.
New information this afternoon. Norwalk police have identified the body of the woman recovered from the Norwalk River. She's been identified as 35-year-old Paige Fannin of West Islip, New York. She was found Thursday after Wilton police contacted Norwalk PD for assistance regarding a missing person. Police say Fannin's clothing and personal items were left near the bank of the river. Ground and aerial searches followed.
In the context of missing persons investigations, the search for Paige Fannin was relatively short, but the discoveries didn't end there. That very same day, 180 miles to the northeast in Plymouth, Massachusetts, a hunter came across something strange while walking through the woods. Sticking up from the damp earth beside a tree was what he first believed to be an old animal bone. It wasn't. He took a closer look and realized he was staring at what looked like human remains. The hunter called 911 to report the macabre find, and later that day, investigators confirmed that it was the top half of a human skull that had obviously been there for some time. The remains were sent out for analysis and identification. Unfortunately, however, the authorities never released the deceased's gender, approximate age, or estimated time of death.
A developing story out of Groton. Human remains have been found in an area near a cemetery. Police are investigating.
2 weeks after the findings in Plymouth, Massachusetts, a man in Groton, Connecticut called the police to report a suspicious black suitcase near the entrance to the Colonel Ledyard Cemetery on Mitchell Street. He told the operator that it had been there for a few weeks, that his curiosity eventually got the better of him, and that he was overwhelmed by the telltale odor of rotting flesh when he went to take a closer look. A local police officer swung by the cemetery later that afternoon, and to his horror, the suitcase contained a decomposing human torso, partially wrapped in a heavy-duty trash bag. Due to the advanced state of decomposition, the Connecticut State Medical Examiner's Office could only determine that the victim was female and was probably between 45 and 65 years old at the time of her death. The following day, a resident of New Haven, Connecticut, 50 miles east of Groton, made yet another grisly discovery while clearing brush from a wooded area near his home on Rock Creek Road. Again, the remains were in an advanced state of decomposition. But just a few days later, the deceased was identified as 59-year-old Denise Leary, who disappeared from New Haven in the fall of the previous year. Her son Joshua told the authorities that she suffered from a number of mental health issues, including depression and paranoid schizophrenia. He also said that 2024 had been a particularly tough year, and that his mother had been acting strangely immediately before she disappeared. On the night of Sunday, September 28th, she told her son that she was going out and asked him to switch off her phone's GPS function. A few minutes later, she walked out the front door and got into a car that had just pulled up to the curb outside. Joshua couldn't tell what kind of vehicle it was or who was driving it, but he was relieved when his mother came home a few hours later.
So that story, I'm not understanding. His mom asked him to turn off the tracking device and blah, blah, blah. I gotta go back just a couple of seconds.
The vehicle it was or who was driving it, but he had paranoid schizophrenia. He also said that 2020 later, the deceased was identified as 59-year-old Denise Leary, who disappeared from New Haven in the fall of the previous year. Her son Joshua told the authorities that she suffered from a number of mental health issues, including depression and paranoid schizophrenia. He also said that 2024 had been a particularly tough year, and that his mother had been acting strangely immediately before she disappeared. On the night of Sunday, September 28th, she told her son that she was going out and asked him to switch off her phone's GPS function. A few minutes later, she walked out the front door and got into a car that had just pulled up to the curb outside.
I don't know where this investigation stands or what's going on, or even if they tell me, but I don't like his story already. So your mother was going somewhere. She came to you. You done told him your mother was all type of crazy. Now she comes to you, tells you to take the tracker off, and she leaves with someone, but she comes back. Listen.
Joshua couldn't tell what kind of vehicle it was or who was driving it, but he was relieved when his mother came home a few hours later. The next few days were relatively uneventful, but Miss Leary didn't respond when Joshua knocked on her bedroom door on the morning of Tuesday, September 30th. At that point, he decided not to disturb her because he assumed she just wasn't ready to get up. However, he was surprised to find that the door was locked from the inside when he went back to check on her again a few hours later. Joshua immediately called his aunt, who urged him to hang up and contact 911. When emergency workers forced their way into Miss Leary's locked bedroom later that morning, they found her bed empty and one of the windows wide open, suggesting she had climbed out her bedroom window.
So I'm a little confused here. Like, they say she came home from this alleged date that she turned off her GPS because he said she asked him to, and then she went in her room and it was uneventful for the next couple of days, so he didn't see her for the next couple of days, or nothing didn't happen for the next couple of days. But then he knocks on her door, it's locked from the inside, like she just went out the window, like some hoochie mama of her own crib. Why would she leave her own crib?
As the body count continued to rise across the region, so did the speculation. Online forums lit up with talk of a serial killer, and soon the rumors were spilling into the community, creating fear, tension, and growing distrust. With most of the victims being middle-aged women and the circumstances raising more questions than answers, the New Haven Police Department felt a mounting pressure to address the public's concerns.
Oh, Stephanie and Aaron, just in the last week, New Haven police say they've received calls from People magazine and Rolling Stone. They say someone actually came up from Florida knocking on doors in the neighborhood, even reaching out to that family to see if there was any potential links to those other remains in New England. Well, New Haven police say clearly there aren't any right here.
It seems to be growing, and there's no basis behind it.
New Haven police addressing the swirling rumors and those wondering online if the death of missing woman Denise Leary is connected to any other recent cases of human remains.
Social media can speculate. We have to deal in facts. There's no facts to support that this woman was murdered.
The 59-year-old Leary was reported missing by family back in late September. In March, her remains were discovered not too far from her home. But over the past 2 months, speculation has grown online of a southern New England serial killer. The Connecticut State Police is heading up a case in Danielson. Telling Eyewitness News, this investigation remains active and ongoing. There is no information at this time suggesting any connection to similar remains discoveries. As for New Haven, Officer Christian Bruckhart, the department spokesperson, says while the medical examiner listed Leary's death as undetermined, the autopsy showed no signs of foul play.
So the people who are avidly investigating, we're hiring, and...
See, here's the thing about people that speak for the police. You being an asshole, you being a smart ass, but we all know a lot of cases is solved by the people on the internet. A lot of unsolved murders that you police can't solve get solved by outside entities. So you should be thankful. And at the same time, here's one of my opinions. Are you proud to say there's 13 bodies, so there's 13 separate killings? Should we expect 13 more killers because there's 13 killings and we don't know who did it? So watch when you being a smart ass, because to me, the alternative is worse.
Feel free to come come apply. I get that there's a sense of wanting to investigate or interest from social media or online, but this woman had a family. She was loved, and the family needs.
And she was loved, and she came to her son and said, take off the tracking device. She left with some random person in the car, came back, went in her room, locked the door, left out the window, turned up dead. Okay, all right. No one killed her. All right, I'm just saying. All right.
It's time to grieve.
By Wednesday, March 26th, 4 bodies had already been discovered across Connecticut and Massachusetts. But later that same day, the death toll grew. In Foster, Rhode Island, about 90 miles east of New Haven, an unsuspecting walker came across another set of female remains near a well-traveled trail. Just like the torso found in Groton, Connecticut, this body was partially wrapped in a trash bag. Needless to say, the find unnerved many of the town's residents.
It's a shame, I hope they catch whoever did it.
For Tom Slater, a lineup of police.
And not for nothing, I mean, what? All the killers at the same time saying, yo, they find the bodies, let me get rid of mine? That's what's going on? Or how are all these bodies just out the blue getting found at the same time in this small area? It's just, that's just one of my questions.
Police cruisers outside his home last night, followed by a visit from state detectives this morning, confirmed his worst suspicions.
They just said that they found a suspicious trash bag. And being in the fire service, I kind of knew, that, yeah, they found the body.
Rhode Island State Police confirmed the remains of an unidentified woman had been located just a stone's throw from his home, feet from traffic along Plainfield Pike in a vacant lot.
I mean, it happened somewhere else, and they just, wooded area, they dumped the body.
Whoa. How you know what happened somewhere else and where it happened? What did you say, old man? Be careful.
The investigation started last night after officers say a Foster resident called in the suspicious discovery. The investigation continued well after sundown, with crews returning early this morning. Still no word on how long the remains had been abandoned there and what was actually recovered. Slater says now looking back, he wouldn't be surprised if they were there for a while.
I know my dog's been acting strange when he comes out here, and he's always sniffing over towards that way, but I mean, I don't know how long the body's been there, but he would pick it up.
Meanwhile, for others living along Route 14, the discovery serving as a reminder that even in their typically quiet part of town, anything can happen.
Soon after the disturbing discovery, the victim was identified as 56-year-old Michelle Romano, who disappeared from Foster the previous summer under what investigators described as mysterious circumstances. Michelle had been an advocate for those with intellectual and developmental disabilities at the Trudeau Center in Warwick and West Bay, Rhode Island, for over a decade. She enjoyed time in nature, especially at the beach, and loved painting and listening to music. She leaves behind 2 children. According to Michelle's family, it wasn't like her to abandon her kids and run off without telling someone where she was going and when she'd be back. Investigators didn't find any significant clues while searching Michelle's apartment, and the medical examiner couldn't determine a cause of death. Then, additional unidentified human remains were discovered in Killingly, Connecticut on Wednesday, April 9th, bringing the total number of bodies found to 7 across 3 states since early March.
In the last 2 months, 7 bodies have been found around New England. And while law enforcement is not connecting the cases, people online have other ideas. Boston 25 News reporter Bob Ward joins us live in Brockton. Bob, the talk is getting loud enough for police to address these rumors.
Rachel, more and more people online are paying attention to this. They are concerned that some or all of these cases might be connected and that a serial killer might be striking in New England.
In some corners of social media, like Facebook, the idea that a serial killer could be on the prowl in New England is getting more popular. This Facebook group, New England SK, has nearly 9,000 members. And
I promise you, New England SK got far more than 9,000 followers now.
In other forums, people are posting their concern that some or all of the bodies recently found in New England might be connected to each other. Since the beginning of March, 7 bodies have turned up in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. Some of the bodies are unidentified remains. The bodies discovered in Groton and Killingly, Connecticut are close to a Rhode Island case. So far, law enforcement is not connecting the cases. However, the talk online has grown so loud that recently Groton, Connecticut police issued a statement that said in part, regarding references circulating on social media about incidents in the state of Rhode Island, we currently have no information connecting those events to any of the incidents in Groton.
Unfortunately, it didn't take long for the next disturbing development. 2 weeks later, on Tuesday, April 22nd, police in Springfield, Massachusetts responded to reports of an unresponsive woman found near a bike path, roughly 75 miles from the earlier scenes. She was discovered alive, but tragically she later died, and an investigation into her death was started. 3 days later, on Friday, April 25th, the Groton Police Department held a press conference to announce a major development related to one of the earlier cases.
Good afternoon. My name is David Burton, D-U-R-T-O-N. I'm the Chief of Police for the City of Groton. The City of Groton Police Department would like to provide an update into the investigation that began in March of 2025. At this time, we've been able to identify both a victim and a suspect of this crime. The victim is identified as Suzanne Wormser, aged 58, who's a resident of the City of Groton. The suspect is identified as Donald Koffel, aged 68, who's also a resident of the City of Groton. Both the victim and the suspect knew each other, and this was a targeted event. Let's go over a timeline. On 3/19/25, we responded to a crime scene at Colonel Ledyard Cemetery where the victim was located. Detectives then began talking with neighbors in the area and checking for video coverage, which could assist in uncovering what had happened along with establishing a timeline. Additionally, follow-up was performed on leads that were received via the department's social media page, as well as calls placed to the department by community members. This included contacting other police departments in surrounding states to research whether or not the reported incidents were related. On 4/11/25, a tip line was established, which began to receive additional information. And on 4/16/25, a tip received from a concerned citizen provided a possible victim identification and led us to Allen Street. On 4/17/25, the Allen Street residence was searched, and another crime scene was discovered and processed.
So, I just wanted to tie this to the last cop. Remember the last cop saying, oh, people on the internet and in the streets, and if they want a job, he just said this case was solved by people calling in. So yes, the internet and people calling in solved more police crimes than they get credit for. But the other police chief or whatever wasn't willing to give y'all credit.
This resulted in the initial identity suspect, who was interviewed at that time as a person of interest. On 4/18, with the initial testing completed, the two crime scenes were connected. On 4/22/25, the suspect was interviewed for a second time, and on the same day, a witness came forward with specific details about the crime as told to them by the suspect. And on 4/23/25, the suspect was interviewed for a third time, and at that time confessed to the murder, providing details that matched the scene documentation as well as evidence collected by the investigators. Today, the suspect was arrested and transferred to the State Department Corrections. He was held on a $1 million bond pending his arraignment at New London, Part A, which is located at 70 Huntington Street in New London. The charges that were leveled against the suspect are murder in violation of Connecticut General Statute 53A54, tampering with physical evidence in violation of Connecticut General Statute 53A 155, and improper disposal of a body in violation of Connecticut General Statute 7-64. The City of Groton Police Department, along with myself, wish to express our sincere condolences to the family of Suzanne Wormser, who was a victim of this heinous incident and did not deserve to lose her life at the hands of the suspect. And with that, I'll take some questions.
Can you talk about how the people know each other and what transpired as far as, this violent act?
So this is a cohabitating relationship, meaning they live together. As far as the violent act itself, that would be a key piece of the crime scene, and we're not going to talk about that at this time.
Suzanne Wormser's remains were found less than a third of a mile from her last known address in Groton. The body was in an advanced state of decomposition, making visual identification impossible. To confirm the identity, the Connecticut State Medical Examiner's Office extracted DNA from the torso and compared it to samples obtained from personal items recovered at Suzanne's residence. The results came back positive. Koffel and Wormser lived together in a shared apartment. At first, he denied knowing anything about her disappearance. But during a third round of questioning, investigators noticed inconsistencies in his story, and that's when he cracked. According to police, Koffel confessed to killing Suzanne during a heated argument over a drug-related dispute. He told detectives he struck her with a baseball bat, then used a handsaw to dismember her body. Police later recovered both items, along with a bag of blood.
You one sick fuck if you could use a handsaw and cut somebody up. That's some crazy shit.
Bloody clothing from the apartment. Forensics confirmed it. The blood matched Suzanne's DNA.
I'm Donald Koffel.
Koffel was arrested and charged with murder, tampering with evidence, and abuse of a corpse. Authorities were clear this was not a random act of violence. It was personal, it was brutal, and it was entirely separate from the other cases being investigated across the region. But Koffel never stood trial. On May 9, 2025, just weeks after his arrest, he died in custody at Corrigan Correctional Center. The Department of Correction later confirmed that Koffel had been battling advanced pancreatic cancer and that his death was not considered suspicious. So while his case brought some closure to the Wormser family, it also reinforced what law enforcement had been saying from the beginning. Not every body is part of a larger pattern. And just when it seemed like things might be slowing down,
I mean, a person that done willing to chop his living girlfriend in half might have had killed some other people. I'm just saying.
Additional discoveries pushed the region further into panic. More remains were found in Taunton, Massachusetts on Friday, April 25th, and 2 days later, a boater called 911 to report a body in the Connecticut River near the town of Rocky Hill. Then, the Hampton District Attorney's Office in Springfield, Massachusetts, announced that the woman found near the Springfield bike trail 6 days earlier had been identified as 45-year-old Megan Meredith.
I sat down with Hampton District Attorney Anthony Gallooni this afternoon, and that's when he confirmed with me that his office has in fact determined that this matter is a homicide. 45-year-old Megan Meredith was found in the area of Springfield's Riverfront Park early Tuesday morning. Meredith was unresponsive at the time she was found and later died. And on Friday, the status of that discovery went from unattended death to homicide. However, the Hampton District Attorney's Office assures Western Mass News that his office, in conjunction with the Springfield Police Department, is working on this case vigorously. And in terms of any risks to public safety, this is what District Attorney Anthony Gallooni had to say.
I'm always a proponent of people being aware of their surroundings and being careful no matter where you live and where you are. But with the recent instance, the recent murder this week and anything else, I am not in a position to say, there's no reason to believe there's a need for any heightened concern or safety measures for anybody in this region.
Cops getting shot, little dudes shooting each other every other day. Y'all finding bodies in Forest Park. You're finding bodies down by Riverfront. People is lost in this spot and lost in the water over here. But nah, there's no, don't pay no extra attention to your life. Don't pay no extra awareness to your surroundings. Nah. You good.
While the cause of death was not disclosed, officials stated that at this time, her death is not believed to be connected to the other remains found across New England. But the story didn't stop there. In the weeks that followed, 2 more sets of remains surfaced, none of them part of the original timeline, but each one landing like an aftershock. One in a river, one near a celebrity's beachside mansion in Westerly, Rhode Island, and each one raising the same question. Are these isolated incidents or more pieces of the same disturbing puzzle? And as for the skeletal remains found in Killingly, Connecticut, first reported back on April 9th, they've since been confirmed to belong to an unidentified man believed to be between 25 and 45 years old. That discovery broke the pattern of female victims and has been reclassified accordingly. Officials believe those remains had been there for about a year. In Pawtucket, Rhode Island, another male body was pulled from the Seekonk River in late April. No ID, no cause of death was released. But it was the Westerly discovery which caused a media frenzy, not just because it added to the growing list of human remains, but because of where it happened. Just blocks from Taylor Swift's Watch Hill mansion, one of the most high-profile addresses in Rhode Island.
The neighborhood is known for the iconic Ocean House and is near pop star Taylor Swift's vacation home. Leanna Folk has more on the investigation.
Kind of alarmed me. It's a spot known for its million-dollar views. It was just something very out of the ordinary for Westerly. But Wednesday morning, Westerly police made a chilling discovery. I saw 3 police cars, one undercover, 2 looked like Westerly town police officers, and there was a medical examiner pulling in behind me. Investigators called to Everett Avenue just before 9:30 in the morning for reports of human remains. Police tell NBC 10 they found what appeared to be a human leg bone. Taylor Day lives nearby. She was driving by as investigators arrived. Scary for Westerly because Westerly's, I consider a very safe town. Police aren't releasing any names yet, and they don't suspect foul play. I think finding just a leg is very suspicious. You may not recognize Everett Avenue, but just up the road is the iconic Ocean House, the luxury landmark, now the backdrop of this disturbing discovery. Probably a couple football fields away from Taylor Swift's house in the Ocean House. I would never expect anything like that. It's the latest in a string of grim discoveries and debunked rumors of a serial killer in southern New England. My mind immediately went to all the theories that are being thrown around. Still, many residents like Taylor are on edge. I'm more aware of my surroundings. I don't go places that are, kind of dim or where I could be alone.
So if you're still watching at this far in the video, my question is it worse that it's not a serial killer and could be 13 separate killers? That's just my question.
Just trying to stay out in public and just be vigilant.
Police quickly secured the area. Cadaver dogs were deployed and forensic teams combed the shoreline along Everett Avenue, trying to determine whether this was an active crime scene or yet another dumping ground in what some now feared was part of a larger pattern. The Rhode Island Medical Examiner's Office took custody of the remains, but so far no identification has been made, no confirmed sex, no DNA match, just a leg bone, badly weathered, found in a place that shouldn't have had anything like this. As of May 16, 2025, the body count across New England stands at 13. Although officials continue to insist there's no evidence these deaths are connected, many community members remain concerned. These days, more and more New Englanders are checking their windows and doors throughout the day and making sure their homes and apartments are buttoned up tight before turning in for the night. Meanwhile, crime aficionados and amateur sleuths continue to discuss, debate, and spread unfounded rumors about the cases and their possible connections on online forums and social media.
I mean, yes, you can say it's rumors, but how about this? Call it people being aware. People are discussing it. People are talking about it. People are tweeting about it. People are Instagramming about it. People are TikToking about it. So if there is, more people are aware. And if there's 13 separate killers out there, people got their eyes open now.
Is there a serial killer in New England? Because that's what a bunch of people online are saying. I guess they found like 8 bodies in quick succession, and now people are throwing out the idea that maybe they're linked.
Wake up, babe. The serial killer just dropped. In all seriousness, apparently there is a serial killer in New England currently.
One of the main sources of online speculation included Facebook groups focused on the so-called New England serial killer. In early April, one group's anonymous member posted a cryptic message suggesting that multiple bodies had been buried along Scarborough Beach in Narragansett, Rhode Island. The post triggered a full-scale response. Law enforcement, along with cadaver dogs, launched a multi-day search of the area. It was costly, comprehensive, and ultimately, nothing was found. As investigators dug deeper, they discovered that the same user had posted several follow-up comments, clarifying that the original message was metaphorical and part of a fictional narrative. The user also stated they were working on a novel and that others were simply misinterpreting a creative writing exercise. In the end, no charges were filed, but the incident underscored how easily online rumors can spill into real-world investigations, and how quickly speculation can turn into action. All of the online chatter, even when well-intentioned, can blur the lines between fact and fiction. And that's exactly why some experts have stepped in to bring the conversation back to reality. According to James Allen Fox, one of the nation's leading criminologists who has studied serial killers for more than 30 years and has written 18 books, there are 2 major reasons why the New England serial killer theory doesn't hold up. First, there's no apparent connection between the victims, and that matters. Most serial killers operate with a very specific victim profile. Whether it's gender, race, age, or physical characteristics, they typically target one type. Second, the locations. These remains weren't found in one area. We're talking about many different cities and towns. Fox points out that serial killers usually have a preferred dump site, someplace familiar, predictable, safe, where they know the terrain and can avoid detection. And here's the practical angle. Most serial offenders hold down jobs. They have lives, families. They're not roaming the Northeast for weeks on end, hunting random victims. And there's another layer that often gets overlooked: timing. Some of these remains were found just days after the victims disappeared. Others, authorities believe they'd been there for months, maybe even longer. That kind of variation makes it hard to draw a straight line between the cases. Even the methods of disposal vary wildly. Rivers, suitcases, wooded trails.
That's a problem I have. Like, how is all these bodies getting found? Are you getting tips? Is, dogs and people walking ain't finding all these bodies?
Level of inconsistency doesn't align with what we typically see in serial crimes. Most repeat offenders develop rituals, habits they rely on. They evolve, sure, but they don't improvise this much. So if this was the work of a single killer, it wouldn't just be rare, it would be unprecedented. For these reasons and more, according to Fox, it is highly unlikely this is the work of a serial killer. Dr. Catherine Ramsland, a forensic psychologist and author, recently discussed the impact of social media on public perception. She stressed the importance of focusing on factual information and the potential harm that unfounded theories can cause to investigations and victims' families. That also seems to be the consensus among law enforcement experts.
That causes the speculation to really catch fire over the internet. You have groups like the web sleuths that are looking into this, that are making it into a bigger case than it may actually be. There's no forensic information at this point that ties any single one of these events to another event.
No one should jump to conclusions as to what may be going on here.
J. Paul Vance, a retired state police lieutenant and WFSB's law enforcement analyst, says agencies share information comparing any similarities.
If it reaches a point where you need to be concerned, they're going to let you know. And these are difficult cases. I'm not going to say they're not, especially.
And we all know with the history of law enforcement, y'all let us know that it's a serial killer 30, 40 bodies in. We just talking. That's it.
When you get 2 or 3 in the same, similar area.
13 sets of remains, 3 states, weeks of speculation, one big question. Is there a serial killer in New England? Law enforcement says no, and right now the facts back them up. There's no consistent victim profile. Men, women, different ages, different backgrounds. Some missing, some not, a few still unidentified. There's no clear pattern in how the bodies were found, no shared cause of death, and no telltale signature linking them together. And geographically, these cases are spread across 3 states, different towns, different timelines, different jurisdictions. Not exactly the footprint of a typical serial killer. Could some of the cases be connected? It's possible. Some investigations are still active, tests are pending, families are waiting for answers. The story isn't finished, but as of the time of this upload, there is no credible evidence pointing to an active serial killer. The experts have spoken, law enforcement agrees, and that matters. Because fear spreads fast, but facts, they take time. And that's what this case needs most. Time, patience, and the truth.
I'm definitely going to agree with them. I'm definitely going to agree with this channel once again. This is the Crime Atlas. Check them out on YouTube if you want to watch this video without my ugly face. But I'm definitely agreeing with them. There's probably no serial killer, but like I said, does that make it better? I think it's worse. 13 separate people willing to kill. They all haven't been arrested, so is there more bodies killing? Will they kill 1 or 2 more people before they get caught? Will they ever get caught? But like I always say, I present you with the facts. I give you my opinion on those facts, and if you like how I do that, click that like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, click all, so you can get notifications every time I drop one of these videos. And if you're a supporter of the channel, much love and respect goes out to you. I salute. And if you're one of these haters, cut the shit. That part.